Picture this. 3. A-10 Navy SEALs trapped deep in a valley, their ammunition almost spent. Enemies pressed from every ridge, and command had already started drafting the loss report. Yet, at that moment, when every order demanded retreat, one determined pilot refused to back down. This is the story of Captain Riley Monroe, a 26-year-old A-10 pilot many dismissed as reckless and unseasoned. But when that valley turned into a kill zone, she drew a new line on the map and carried every man home alive. Before we dive in, drop a comment below. Tell me where you're tuning in from. I love seeing the Major Tom's Tales community stretch across the globe. 381 Navy SEALs were pinned down inside a valley that had become a death trap. Helicopters couldn't get through. F-16s couldn't fire that close. Command quietly began preparing the report of inevitable losses, but one pilot refused to accept that. Captain Riley Monroe, just 26, flying the A-10 Thunderbolt II, Irish by blood, and written off as too emotional by officers who kept her buried in logistics duty. She looked small beside her Warthog, but no one on base knew the machine better. That A-10's 30mm G, AU-8 cannon could rip through steel with surgical accuracy. In the right hands, it could strike within 50 meters. They insisted she didn't have those hands. At 6:30 a.m., under the searing sun at Ironhaven, Major Donovan told her yet again she wasn't cleared to fly. Formation work with the rookies. I need steady leadership. In other words, not you. Riley swallowed the sting, nodded, and kept at it. For months, she had been training beyond her orders, running night simulations, charting terrain, memorizing ballistic tables, picking up Pashto basics for comms checks, even working equations by hand in case the targeting pod failed. She sketched maps of valleys and ridges, circling the blind spots where air doctrine always fell short. Nobody wanted her notes. She studied anyway. In one briefing, she asked a blunt question. What if this movement isn't training, but a trap meant to pin us where air cover can't reach? Track the gear, Captain, came the cold reply. So she did, and each night she replayed the nightmare on a simulator she'd hacked her way into. Friendlies surrounded, missiles hidden in the rocks, enemies closing in. She practiced cutting down SAM sites without breaking her run, threading 30mm fire between friendly strobes and enemy muzzle flashes. 47 times she ran the drill, each one tighter than before. At 1:47 that afternoon, the base siren shattered routine. The ops center lit up with maps of Darrow Pass valleys she knew by heart. The radio cut through the noise. SEAL Team 7 and attached units. 381 pinned by 800 fighters with 2 confirmed SAM sites. Enemy spread across 3 ridges. Friendlies caught in a natural bowl. F-16s were still 15 to 25 minutes out. The rules forbid firing within 100 meters of friendly strobes. The SEALs faced enemies only 50 meters away. Major Donovan asked for options. The room gave doctrine. Riley gave the A-10. Denied, Donovan snapped. We're not risking an untested pilot. Then a comms tech's voice cut in. SEALs had 30 minutes of ammo left. That ended the debate. Doctrine hadn't. Riley stepped into the hall, counted 30 seconds, and ran the math. 10 minutes from locker to takeoff, 12 more to reach the valley. That left her with a razor-thin window. She added one final note to the letter she'd carried for months. If you're reading this, I acted because 381 Americans were dying while paperwork debated itself. Then she moved without hesitation. Aircraft 297 was fueled and armed, its drum packed with 30mm Mavericks and rockets. She moved on instinct, everything in overdrive. Oil, hydraulics, chaff, flares, pod, INS. 90 seconds later, the warthog was alive. 90 seconds later, the hog thundered awake. On the tower channel, she kept silent. On guard, her voice carried. Annie Station, Thunderbolt 7, departing Ironhaven. Inbound Darrow Pass. 381 Americans on the brink of being overrun. She was breaking every rule to save them. Wheels lifted at 2:23 that afternoon. From the valley, the radio crackled back, strained, voices unraveling at the edges. The SEAL commander, Vanguard Actual, stayed professional, but his rhythm betrayed the truth, ammo nearly gone. The F-16 lead checked in. Visual on target, unable to engage inside 100 meters. Too danger close. Riley keyed the mic. Vanguard Actual, Thunderbolt 7. Mark your position, IR. I'll work the edge. Silence. Then came a spark of hope. Thunderbolt 7, confirm. Danger, close authority. I'm cleared to save Americans. Designate. The valley opened below her, just as she had traced it in red pencil at 3 a.m. Machine guns on the eastern slope tearing into SEAL positions. She silenced the first nest with a 2-second burst. Dust blew skyward. Fire stopped. She rolled, pulled, dove again. An assault team on the north slope, 70 meters from friendlies. A quick stitch across the rocks. The movement ended. No blue strobes inside the kill zone. Thunderbolt 7, solid hits, Vanguard Actual called. Western Ridge, 75 meters. The place where fast jets usually doomed men. The place the hog was built for. Riley broke left, cut steep, lined the reticle just under the ridge, and fired a half-second burst. A perfect seam of tungsten tore between friendly strobes and enemy flashes. The valley froze. Everyone on the ground knew an A-10 had just put rounds where no one else dared. Ironhaven to Thunderbolt 7, Major Donovan's voice cracked in her headset. Return to base immediately. You are not authorized. She cut the command net, leaving only CAS and ground comms alive. She was far beyond permission now. Vanguard Actual, keep marking. I'm rolling east again. She followed the same secret playbook she'd rehearsed for months. Take down air defenses first. One Maverick into the Hot Sam site on the southern spur. Then use terrain masking behind the ridge to break the second lock. Clear a lane, then rip out the ridge positions anchoring the crossfires, not just the ones that looked ugly on the screen. Keep the gun short, half-second taps, no drawn-out streams. Let the dust be the friendly's shield. Let the thunder crush enemy morale. Vanguard, push 3 teams west under my fire. Stay below the lip. I'm walking rounds uphill ahead of you. Within minutes, the radio tone shifted. Less panic, more control. Moving. Set. Next bound. In the ops center, radar painted a single A-10 carving steel Zuz across a valley of red icons. The F-16 lead checked in over BaseNet, reporting, A-10 is placing rounds inside 25 meters of friendlies, either suicidal or surgical. So far, surgical. SEAL comms confirmed it. Thunderbolt 7, that's the gun locking down our east. Clear to move. Copy, shift north. I'll take the crest in 3, 2, gun. People who once dismissed Riley fell silent. Inspector Hayes from the IG's office reminded Major Donovan of the regulations. Colonel Mercer pointed at the map and said what reality demanded. She's the only one who can do this. Support her or prepare the eulogy. Major Donovan wavered between career and conscience. On her third pass, Riley destroyed the second SAM site with a pop-up Maverick fired from behind cover. Now, helicopters could finally begin planning their move. But first, Riley had to carve an exit path. She directed Vanguard Actual toward a fold she'd memorized months earlier from satellite imagery. a shallow seam on the western ridge. From overhead, it was invisible unless you'd studied the topo lines by hand. Thunderbolt 7. That fold is real. You can move through it. Do it. I'll rake the high points 50 meters ahead. The 30mm cannon roared, tearing like a giant zipper across the stone. Enemy fire sputtered, then went quiet. The SEALS bounded forward. For the first time all day, blue icon shifted. An enemy element tried to roll down on the corridor from 50, then 40 meters. Riley flattened her dive, dropped the pipper low, and fired a 3/4-second burst that shaved the ridge like a carpenter peeling wood. Then stillness. Good effect, Vanguard Actual called, breathless but steady. We're at the mouth. 2 more positions on the far lip. Mark with spark, she ordered. A bright IR winked, and she split it by the width of a body. No friendlies touched. The corridor held. By the time F-16s could legally strike the outer rings, Riley had already shredded the inner defenses. Helicopters spun up. A dust trail of ground QRF raced toward the pickup zone. The valley shifted from last stand to organized breakout in under 15 minutes. Back at Ironhaven, Major Donovan finally made his call. He opened the support floodgates, tankers, deconfliction, full ISR feed tied to Riley's net, and a medevac plan linked to her corridor. Thunderbolt 7. A calm, steady voice came through. Ironhaven has you on primary. We're with you. Riley didn't answer command net. She didn't need to. The only voices that mattered were on the ground. Vanguard. Actual, keep pushing. I'm on your shoulder. The corridor was fragile, but real. A zipper of silence cut through mountains still screaming war. Riley stayed tight on Vanguard Actual, breaking the valley into small, winnable fights, each decided in seconds. A pickup gun truck crested high on the right, too slim for a Maverick, too fleeting for rockets. She dipped, let the pipper kiss the hood, and tapped. The truck folded. The gunner vanished in dust. West High is cold, she called. Move. On the eastern spur, an RPG team tried offset angles. Riley beat them on instinct. Flare, jink, half-second burst stitched across the flash. Offset shooter neutralized. The SEALs pushed forward by bounds, 3 teams at a time, then 4, flowing like water pulled downhill. At every move, Riley laid 30mm exactly where it made the next 10 seconds survivable. Thunderbolt 7, we're at the LZ fold, Vanguard Actual reported, his voice stronger now. 2 positions still raking us. Paint 1. An IR spark blinked. She answered with a single burst. The ridge exhaled. Paint 2. Another spark. She erased it with a half-second tap. LZ workable, Vanguard Actual confirmed. Request rotors. Rotors inbound, came the call on CAS net. Ironhaven was finally all in. Chalks 3 minutes, another voice warned. But 3 minutes was a lifetime if the ridges lit up again. Riley made sure they didn't. The first Chinook rode its own brownout into the fold. Riley pushed wide to the rim, hunting anything with a view of the landing zone. 2 muzzle flashes blinked from a rock cluster. She dragged a diagonal burst across the stone like a zipper. The flashes disappeared. Chalk 1 lifting. First sticks aboard, second inbound. Another dust cloud rose. Another fragile moment where one loose thread could unravel everything. Riley spotted that thread. A PKM team shifting positions, trying to slip lower. She clipped them with 3 precise rounds. Chalk 2 lifting, we're green. A third helicopter took the risk, heavy and stubborn with weight. Riley tracked its climb like a guardian watching over her pack. A Sam Seeker tone shrieked. The last card, the final threat. But she was already moving, already low, tucked behind the ridge. The missile searched for heat and found only stone. She popped back up, saw the launcher crew scrambling to displace, and ended their attempt with a short, merciless burst. "Vanguard actual," she said evenly. "Your last sticks. On chalk, 3 and 4, we're almost out." Almost wasn't safe. An enemy squad sprinted the ridge lip in desperation, boots skidding shale, rifles raised. Riley drew a bright, short line between them and the LZ. The charge collapsed. "Chalk 4 lifting," the air mission commander called. "All aboard. We're off." The very last men, rear security, climbed onto a small tailgate bird that never should have dared. Riley held her fire until they vanished into the brown cloud, then raked the ridge one last time. Not to kill, but to send a message. Not today, not while I'm here. Then the valley was only wind and dust, her headset filled with nothing but breathing. Vanguard Actual came back on, clipped and ceremonial. "Thunderbolt 7, be advised, 381 souls accounted for, 0 friendly KIA during exfil. We owe you our lives." "Copy," she answered. Nothing more. Riley kept weaving lazy S-turns high and wide until the last rotor faded to a dot, and the corridor sealed behind them like a scar closing over. On the way back, she checked herself. Fuel steady, 1 Maverick left, gun drumlight, flares low, hands calm, mind clear. She flipped the command net back on. "Ironhaven, Thunderbolt 7, RTB." Silence. Then Major Donovan, controlled, unreadable. "Thunderbolt 7, cleared direct." The runway stretched ahead like a question. Touchdown smooth, taxi slow, shut down by the book. She popped the canopy release, letting the base's heat and the roar of the crowd pour in. They were already on their feet. Line maintainers, ammo crews, medics, clerks, pilots, MPs, even chow hall staff. Not a pep rally, something older, purer. Raw respect. Riley climbed down. Major Donovan stood waiting with Inspector Hayes and half the senior staff. She stood at attention, braced for what would come. "You departed without authorization," Donovan said, his voice carrying. "You disobeyed orders. You engaged at ranges beyond every comfort zone we've ever written." "Yes, sir." "You also brought back 381 Americans without a single friendly lost in the movement." A long pause. Then, "Captain Monroe, you will answer for your choices. But today, you'll answer only one question. Can you teach exactly how you did that?" "Yes, sir." "Good. We'll put it on paper so the next pilot won't have to figure it out at 3 in the morning inside a locked simulator." The formalities followed. Statements, timelines, questions meant to see if she had gambled or calculated. Riley replied with math, memory, and method. Technique over theater. She didn't justify, she explained. Inspector Hayes listened carefully. "You broke procedure," he said at last. "But your procedure fit the problem better than the book. We won't reward insubordination, but we will fix doctrine. No talk of medals, not yet, just work." 6 months later, the patch on her shoulder bore the name of what she had built. Close Air Support Development. She taught from the ground up, reading terrain like a language. Every fold a word, every ridge a sentence, every valley a paragraph. If you can't describe it from 12 angles, she told new pilots, then you don't really know it. Gun discipline. Taps, not streams. Let dust be your smoke, not your blindfold. Hit the right nodes. The shooter anchoring a crossfire is worth 10 fighters standing in the open. Speak ground, not ego. Say only what moves a team 10 meters closer to survival. She ran demos with clean tapes and ugly ones alike. She showed misses alongside hits, unsentimental about both. Pilots who once smirked now scribbled notes. Pilots who once lectured now asked questions. The Marines sent JTACs, the Army sent aviation representatives, Special Operations sent the men who had lived it, sitting in the front row and writing down every word. An awards formation came and went. Quiet citations, a ribbon or two, nothing flashy. Reports were cautious where they had to be, exact where they should be. On paper, the consequence was a reprimand for her unauthorized launch. In practice, the consequence was responsibility, real responsibility. Major Donovan found her near the simbay afterward. "I was wrong about you," he admitted, without hedging. "I saw risk where there was preparation. That's on me." Riley didn't gloat. "I stepped out of lanes. That's on me." "Then let's redraw the lanes where they should have been," Major Donovan replied. It was the closest either of them would call peace. Commands that once ignored her began sending problems, not praise. A border valley with brutal crosswinds. She wrote a page on gunnery techniques no one had asked for before. A city block with allies upstairs and hostiles below. She built a checklist that cut fratricide risk with 3 radio calls and 2 approach angles. A night exfil when strobes failed. She taught a method to read patterns of life through thermal clutter and deconflict by timing instead of lights. It wasn't heroics, it was craft, shared openly. An analyst pinned a number on the wall because some truths had to be tangible. 381 extracted. 0 friendly KIA during the movement. People touched that number in silence as they walked by. The way you brush against something sacred without saying a word. Riley avoided that hallway when she could, not out of modesty, but honesty. She knew plenty of days the math could have gone the other way. Skill mattered. Timing mattered. So did luck. So did the men on the ground who refused to break beneath a sky that had already written them off. Doctrines shifted by inches, the only way massive systems ever move. Minimum engagement ranges became guidelines with context instead of commandments without thought. Simulator courses absorbed new modules she had written in plain language. A-10 pilots learned to measure ridges in breaths, not just waypoints in milliseconds. Fresh lieutenants arrived wide-eyed, proud of their patches, eager to hear what really counted. Riley told them the same thing every time. Technology is a promise, not a plan. The plan is you. Learn the ground, learn the gun, learn the people on the net. Then, when a valley asks a question no one wants to answer, you'll already have one that keeps Americans alive. On the flight line, she still ran her hand along the titanium as if it were alive. She still checked every bolt. She still filled margins with notes no one else would ever read. Some mornings, a letter appeared on her desk with no return address. Inside, a coin, a patch, or a single line from someone who had been there. You showed up. She kept them in a plain box, unopened on days she flew. One evening, long after, she taxied back from a training hop, cut the engines, and climbed down. The crew chief, grease on his sleeve and sun-etched in his grin, looked up and said the only thing that ever needed to be said. "Ma'am, it's good to know that if we ever get pinned bad, you've already been where the map ends." Riley smiled. "The map never ends," she told him. "Sometimes someone just has to draw the next line." And that was the truth. Not that one pilot broke the rules, but that one pilot revealed the rule beneath them all. When lives hang in the balance, skill joined with courage can turn a dead end into a road home. Captain Riley Monroe showed the world that determination and precision could redraw the map when everything was on the line. 381 Americans went home because one pilot refused to quit. If this story spoke to you, drop a salute in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Major Tom's Tales for more true stories of valor and sacrifice. Until next time, stay strong, stay proud, and never forget those who serve.